Hello, this is Trent. I am Bumi Obanaum. Moses is not here exactly, but he's still with us. We have him on Skype. So what's trending, Moses? You're all alone over there.
Yes, I'm on an undisclosed location on Skype. Well, before I say what's trending, I would like to mention and wish everybody out there a very happy Workers' Day. If you have a job, if you don't have a job, happy Workers' Day all the same. And a few weeks back we talked about the Kenya polygamy bill. That's sparked a lot of controversy. But 2 days ago, we just learned that President Uhuru Kenyatta has finally signed the bill into law. Now that makes an average Kenyan man or an average married Kenyan man able to take in another wife without the consent of his previous wife. And a whole lot of global leaders and social activists think that it's one step backwards for Kenya. Now, going to what's trending. Well, what has been trending so far, as we know it here in Nigeria, is what we call the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Now, hashtag Bring Back Our Girls was, it's a Twitter handle that was set up in solidarity in, finding and searching, bringing to rescue the 234 girls that were abducted by the Boko Haram insurgents.
So a way to raise awareness.
About 14 days ago. Yes. And a whole lot of people have been tweeting, including celebrities, both national and international. In fact, we see tweets from Chris Brown, from Mary J. Blige, from Kerry Hilson and Russell Simmons. Now, one of the tweets here from Mary J. Blige and Chris Brown, it says, "It's been 2 weeks since the kidnapping of 234 Nigerian girls and they still aren't home. Hashtag Bring Back Our Girls." And Kerry Hilson says, "My heart goes out to all Nigerians." So it's really making a buzz on social media and Twitter, to be specific. And everybody, are out there in solidarity and asking and questioning, where are our girls, where are our daughters? Now, that's actually not only the hashtag going on Twitter. We also have hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, hashtag Bring Back Our Daughters, hashtag Where Are My Sisters, and so on. Now, next, what's trending next is something that sounds funny, but not very funny. We call this one hashtag We Are All Monkeys. Now, when you hear that, you're tempted to chuckle or to laugh. But it's really not funny. It's an expression that tackles the issue of racism, especially in football. Now, a few days back, one of the footballers called Danny Alves, he was being hurled or stoned by an angry fan with a banana. Now, everybody normally, Danny is supposed to react, or get angry or temperamental about that because, it was an act of hate from an angry fan. But you know what? He picked up the banana, he peeled it, and he ate it. Wow. That is
I've seen that video, and every time I chuckle myself.
Exactly,
it was
because
a brave one.
It looks sort of cheeky, but also very mature of him to do that. So now that has sparked up a lot of talks on social media and on Twitter, where racism right now is no longer seen as what I would call a painful hate crime, but according to the BBC, they said if you can't fight racism, then eat it.
Okay, so use humor to attack racism.
Exactly. I think I'm hungry for a banana right now.
All right, Moses. There's quite a lot trending, as we can see. On the 14th of April, members of the Islamic sect, Boko Haram, abducted over 234 girls from their school in northeastern Nigeria. Now, it's been over 2 weeks since the abduction of these girls, and there's still no sign of them. Nigeria's military initially said that the number of girls who were abducted were about 129, with 121 rescued. But the principal of the school refuted that number, saying that instead 234 girls were actually missing. Now, according to her, more than 40 of them have escaped their abductors. Today on the program, we analyze efforts being put in place to ensure the safe rescue of these girls. We also attempt to understand the trauma these girls are going through. We'll be right back after this.
When news of last Monday's kidnap first emerged, initial reports said that more than 200 girls had been abducted, but state officials in Nigeria's northeast soon downgraded the numbers to just over 100. Now parents of the missing girls have confirmed that the whereabouts of 230 female students of the government girls secondary school Chibok are still unknown.
When it first happened, everybody ran away, drew up a list of students, and we discovered that 234 girls were still missing.
Some of the girls, through sheer determination, were able to escape their abductors, and one of them shares her ordeal of that fateful day.
We thought they were soldiers and they asked us to board a vehicle which headed towards Damboa, and my friends and I jumped from the vehicle and ran back home.
They trooped in around 11.
One of the teachers, Galtisha Tima, recounts the chaos that followed.
They say the army let the children not run away, they will rescue them. After they bomb everything, they pack them back to war. They drop them to war, then they put them into a gun and run out with them.
After 3 days, some parents organized a search and rescue group and followed the abductors. This man was among them.
On Thursday, we headed towards the direction they went with 150 motorbikes. We passed through a forest with only 2 huts, inhabited by 15 women before moving on to the next village.
Their search and rescue mission was, however, not successful.
We continued for another 25 kilometers until we met a Fulani man who directed us to a town called Bade. Our motorbikes had become 40 at this point, but we continued relentlessly until another man warned us that we would never make it out alive if we continued, so we had to return home.
Believe me, they can't destroy our souls.
Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima assured the parents that security agents were working hard to locate the abductors and rescue the girls.
All the security personnel that accompanied us on this trip, I want to most profoundly thank gentlemen and women of the press for their support and empathy about our travels. They can burn physical infrastructures, but believe me, they can't destroy our souls.
These reassurances, however, seem to be doing little to comfort these parents whose agony is only increased by the fact that they have no idea what conditions the girls are facing in the hands of their abductors. Now they can only wait and hope that their children will be home in no time.
Now that video should have given you a pretty clear idea of what's happening and what's being said. Moses, if there's something that, I don't know if, but there's something I noticed, and it's like people are saying, especially with the mix-up in figures, that military saying this number and then it's turning out to be, people are saying they're not confident in the military getting these girls back.
Yeah, you know what, I think it's really pathetic because first of all, you know, they don't seem to have a proper data. Now, these girls were not just picked up in isolation or from anywhere. They were being abducted from a school. So the school should have a proper record of these girls. Let us have.
Looks like that's what social media seems to be, you know, echoing back. The people on Twitter, Facebook, they keep saying, why don't we have an accurate figure? You know, these are human beings, not chickens.
Exactly, and you know the fact that the parents actually went out to look for these girls by themselves, I think is a big slap on the military, because I mean it shows the little faith they have in the government and the military for them to go out by themselves to look out for their daughters. And you know, time is a very precious essence in this issue, because it's only a matter of time. These girls, you know, will be.
We don't know their fates for now.
Exactly, yeah. You know, I really don't want to say it, but. You know, they
can
probably
only hope
be married
that they will
off,
be
or
found
something
soon.
terrible might just happen to them. So time is of a very essence in this matter. They have to be found and be found quickly as possible.
Certainly. And joining us to discuss this issue today is Princess Olufunmi-Kayode, a gender rights activist, and retired Major General Debo Bashorun. Thank you two for being a part of this discussion.
It's a pleasure.
So I'll start with you, Major, without the general. we watched that, and earlier, my intro, we talked about the fact that there were mix-up in figures. So aside from the fact that that was pretty shameful, what we want to know now is, what is wrong with the approach the military is taking? Or is there anything wrong with it?
Well, I'm not here to demonize the military.
Certainly.
But there are, I think, issues that they are supposed to have handled earlier on that they didn't handle. Because I grew up to learn that prevention is always better than cure. If they have taken action, steps to make sure that this type of incident does not happen, it wouldn't have happened. It's like crying over spoiled milk now. And the only recommendation I will have for them is to seek a way to dialogue with these people. Okay. Because already these children are now, what do you call them? They're hostages now. If the military go in now with all its might to go and fight them, I doubt if any of the children will come back alive. And that's not advisable.
Okay.
And from the situation now, I think the Boko Haram, the sect, has internationalized this issue more and more. I know it's been confined to the West African region now, but with countries like America, Britain, and France trying to come in now, it's taking a different dimension entirely now. And the only solution that I see in sight is having to approach these people peacefully, using the leverage of advanced Islamic countries like the Saudi Arabians.
So in your opinion, that's the best approach right now?
The best approach now.
Okay, Princess, I want to bring you in at this point. When all of this, when you heard the news, and with all of the several events that unfolded itself before now, how did you feel as an average citizen and as a mother?
Whew. Of course, as a mother, because I have 5 girls, and I have happened to face a little trauma once concerning my daughters. Not only has them been abducted or kidnapped, and I know what I went through at that time. How will I put it? I began to relive the event of what happened, and that was robbers coming into the house. I was more traumatized than my daughters, because I could actually just sit and just go off, just imagining what happened. So it's not something you want to experience. And when we want to empathize with people that are going through this, it's a bit difficult to really understand what it is like. You can only put yourself in the place and say, okay, fine, I've had children, so how will I feel? And there's a proverb in Yoruba that says, it's better for someone to die than to be missing. Because you can actually see the corpse of the person who is dead and you can bury them. But to say, "Omo mi sonu,"
my child is missing,
it's much worse than having a child die. So it wasn't something that we're still okay with, And that's why everybody, women across the nation, across the world, are crying out that, no, we can't let this go anymore.
Okay. Now, considering the fact that we seem to have a pretty good idea of where the girls are, at least from reports we've gotten, why is the rescue operation still not making any headway? Why do you think, sir? Well,
it's very risky now to go into try and do a rescue operation. I'll give you an instance. I think it was the United States military forces against Libya then, when Gaddafi was the president of that country.
Okay.
And the special forces went in, and by the time they got in, they realized that it's either they wipe everybody up, or they have to leave the hostages there. And the whole thing was aborted. So I think it's a situation where we have found ourselves now, that we cannot go in. I mean, our military forces cannot go in now and say they want to confront these people, unless we want to lose all the children. It's not just an advisable move to make. But if it were a situation whereby you got them, you know their area, by now, with the advanced countries coming in, the satellite will be able to position exactly where these people are, congregating. But the issue is going there to attack them. These people are armed. If you stay at the longer range, you send in an artillery shell. If it lands in a place, just take for instance this studio. By the time it lands on the ground, none of us here is safe. So both the hostages and the culprits themselves, they are not safe. And remember that these are people who are so desperate, they don't value life. They're ready to die. So coming to bomb them to smithereens is a
win-win for them.
Yeah, but talking about surveillance, that forest where we understand that some of the girls are being held, it's not new. For a while now, we've been hearing about this forest, and we've been hearing that, members of the Boko Haram sect are hiding there or camping there, living there. Let me not even say hiding. So why wasn't any sort of, probably airstrike attack, operation? Why wasn't any sort of those things? Why didn't it happen in the first place before all of this?
You're talking of a vast forest. It's not you're talking of about a forest about 200 miles, square, that kind of thing. But to answer your question, these are some of the things that I would want to believe that the military should have done before this time around. Why they did not do it, I'm not in a position of operational command now. Okay. But those are the basic things you have taken care of. During my service in the military, these are things we don't play with. Why this thing will be happening by now is anybody's guess. And you cannot trace it further than the political, because the military itself is a microcosm of the whole Nigerian society. So whatever is happening at the national level, it's expected to happen at the military level. So what I'm saying basically, in other words, is the issue of corruption. If things were the way they are supposed to be, such a thing, I don't think it would have happened.
Okay, at this point, Moses, I'm sure the online community has a lot to say, and you also want to jump into this conversation. So, Moses?
Yeah, precisely. And we've been getting a lot of tweets lately. And recently, the one just came in from Funky Jolly, and it says a hashtag bring back our girls. For some people to say the girls kidnapped is a farce shows how dumb they are. At the previous killings also false. Now, obviously, there's been some speculations out there that the 234 girls, it's actually a rumor, and it's funny because there have been 1,001 proof that these girls have been kidnapped. The faces of their mothers, of their wailing family can also testify. So that I get that settles that. And then we also have one from Fumi Yonda, and she says, doesn't the school have the full names of all these girls, so they can account for the few that escaped and give us the names of the rest? Hashtag bring back our girls. And Rosawo says that I don't pray for a situation where the Sambisa forest is attacked and the army returns with body bags, counts of the girls. Hashtag bring back our girls. And he also went further to say that I want to believe the main reason for kidnapping the girls is to use them as human shield against our army. Now, Major Bashorun, what do you make out of that? Using these girls as a decoy, to distract or to shield away from the army. Does that make any strategic sense to you?
Oh, it does. It does. Really, you're not going to shoot at the target whereby you know that you're going to incur more damage and you can inflict on the enemy. Certainly, these children, these girls are human shields. And that's why those people have taken them over. By the time they take them over, it's either they realize they are losing the battle, and now there's room for them to say, well, let's come to the negotiating table, which is maybe what they wanted all along. So, but as things are now, I want to believe that apart from all these dirty things that they might do with the young girls, I want to believe their utmost priority is to make sure that they have an upper hand, which from all indications they seem to have now.
Okay, and from what Moses also, the tweets he read out, people seem to be clamoring for the names and pictures of the girls to be released. But on the other hand, the Borno State government, in a statement they released, saying that, well, we are ready to do it. Even tomorrow, we are ready to release the names and the pictures, but we are concerned about the security. Is it any security threat to release the names and pictures?
There is. I think it's not advisable for them to release the pictures or names now.
Okay.
Because you remember, even the president acknowledged that we have sympathizers, even in our midst. We don't know who is who. Lagos, Ibadan, everywhere, all the states, we still have people who sympathize. They might be in the minority with these people. And by the time you release that, if that person still has a way of contacting them, it will tell you, here in Ibadan, you've got so number of people and these are the names. So it emboldens the enemy. So it's not a good strategy for them to release anything at this point.
Princess?
But to find a way, to solve the riddle just in an amicable manner.
I guess security will have its own reasons, but when we lost the other young boys, we had their names almost immediately, maybe because they were dead, I don't know. But then when we see people are missing, I don't know why, maybe because it's the northern part of the country that names become a big issue to be released. We need faces. People want to do so much, and that's why they're asking for their names. They've already been kidnapped. Maybe there are some children or some high people involved. Maybe that's why they are being hidden. So that's security. But for us who are activists and for us who are individuals who are empathizing with them, we need names and we need faces. Particularly with all the commotion of the numbers, who is saying whether they are 234 or they are 190 something, or they are 20 or 20 escape or 40 escape. So there's a lot of confusion, and that's why the demand for names became.
So we have, but talking about names and pictures, as psychologists and activists, what about the stigma?
There's no stigma. They were kidnapped. They're actually,
but you know, like
they're actually more different from children who are molested directly, whether at home or anything, or raped. These ones were carried even in a huge group.
Unfortunately, people usually just assume that since they've been kidnapped, more or less, they might have been raped.
Definitely. We're talking about how many days?
So there's that, you know,
particularly when we know that the region we're talking about have a preference for marrying children young. What are we talking about? So there's all possibility, whether we want, that's why when it comes to what the family is going through, there needs to be the realization of what might have happened so that we can deal with that.
All right, we'll continue, but for now, let's take a break. Stay tuned.
The expression on their faces indicates their mood, and the placards say it all. They are grieving over the fate of their wards and relatives taken by insurgents in Borno State. More than 2 weeks after the 234 girls were abducted from their school in Chibok, the whereabouts of 190 of them is still unknown. Even now, reports indicate the school girls may have been ferried out to neighboring countries. This further upsets these people who have come all the way from Chibok to the Nigerian capital to draw more attention to their plight. It has been described as a national tragedy, the worst ever hit on the country by insurgents, and for those directly or even remotely affected, the experience has been traumatic. Muta Nkeki is saddened. He says 2 of his wards are among the abducted girls.
Affected me seriously. Right from the date this operation was going on, we were given phone, and I was hearing gunshot throughout over 5 hours. I could not sleep that day. I'm telling you, from that time up to this point I'm talking to you, sincerely, my mouth, as I'm even speaking to you, my mouth is bitter.
The people are not satisfied with the efforts of the authorities to rescue the girls. In grief, they took to the streets wielding placards. Security operatives stopped them at the gate to the National Assembly, but their grief struck the security agents who allowed them in. They continued to wail until they got some attention.
Our parents at home, some are hypertensive, some are dying, some have only 1 child, and the daughter is there. Some have 3, some are there.
We just want to assure you that what you feel, we also are feeling it. We have children, we have daughters, we have sons.
We are saddened by this development, but because of this event that is going on the floor of the Senate, he has asked 3 of us to come here and assure you that Senate is not sleeping, Senate is not reneging on its responsibility, but is working very hard to ensure that something is done very urgently on this matter.
The grieving parents are, however, not pacified. They want more action to rescue their girls.
Navy, Air Force, Chief of Defense Staff, Director SSS, NSA, Controller of Immigration, to resign if within 1 week these children are not produced.
Welcome back. Now, what you just watched were weeping mothers, you know, weeping for the return of their children. That was pretty touching, you know, hearing what they had to say. Princess, most of these girls are under the age of 18. Yeah. So, and in that part, so we can call them minors. Yeah. And already, we can only imagine what they might be going through. But as a psychologist, help us paint a picture.
Already they are going through trauma. And it's interesting that people deal with trauma differently. And for some it can be very intense. For some they can look normal. Meanwhile, there's a lot going on inside of them. It's not easy for them. I mean, particularly somebody who's never been away from home. Your home, school is where you go to and you come back to your home. And then now you're in an unfamiliar environment where you don't know whether you'll die. So the fear of death is topmost. For some, they may want to survive. For some, they may be ready to die. That's why the way individuals deal with issues are quite different. Some will be just ready to just say, I don't mind dying. And while some will say, no, I'm going to do everything I can to survive this. I'm going to be strong on my inside to make sure that I come out of this alive. And so it's something weighty, but the intents of the trauma will be determined on each individual child. While we want to look at back to the families, we just heard there are families that have 3 children, 2 children, and some that just the only child that they have. So a lot of emotions are going, and you heard a father say his mouth is bitter. So and we're a country that mental health is not a very strong point. We have a lot of people moving around that are not very okay. And now when you have things that bring out intense, some people may end up doing something wrong because of the kind of intense emotion they're going through. You're talking about some of them going to have insomnia, they can't sleep. Some can even eat. They're going to begin to have some kind of disorders, different disorders. It can be eating disorders. Some others can just be overeating. It's not because they want to eat. It's because that's how they can deal with the issue, while some will not eat. And so you're looking at people having a lot of different kinds of health issues.
Wow, that's fascinating to understand. Moses.
Yep.
Jump in.
You know, I saw that video, and as Princess rightly says that, you know, the trauma going on cannot be overemphasized. But I want to make mention, you know, where in the House of Senate, it says that if the girls were not being found in a week, you know, they will be sacked. I'm not sure how effective that would be in finding these girls, but I think it's a good step, you know, where people should be held accountable for not delivering, where people are being put on their toes, you know, for laxity in their positions. Now I want to go back. I want to throw this question to retired Major Bashorun. Now let's go back to Chibok, where these girls were being abducted. Now we understand from reports that there was a gun battle and security men, you know, in the school were being killed before these girls were being transferred, you know, into the van. Now, not 1, not 2, not 5, not 20, but 200 girls, over 200 girls were being hauled into a van. Now, we understand that Borno is under state of emergency. I don't know. I want to understand why a state that is said to be under state of emergency, you know, abductions are still being carried out successfully. Isn't that some sort of what Major Bashorun, as a security expert, in this area, what do you make out of that, really?
Well, I think the way I will respond is that I think something they call shame has left all of us, we Nigerians. We are no more ashamed. Because in better climes, you can remember just a few days ago, I think the Prime Minister of Japan had to resign because of a ferry disaster, claiming about 100 lives. But here you have this country. I can give you examples of people who are supposed to have honorably resigned. It's not a matter of the Senate passing a resolution or anything. By now, I would expect the security advisor to have resigned. I would have expected the Minister of Defense to have resigned, and so many others like that who are involved in this, in the planning and execution of this. But because of what we call the Nigerian factor, none of them are has one role. Another good example is what happened to this immigration recruitment. By now, the minister is still there talking. Then when do you expect the country to go forward with this type of situation?
But taking a look at the fact that this state, Borno State, where it happened, was under the emergency rule. So we're assuming that by 7, everybody should be indoors, and we're talking about a loud operation. It wasn't a quiet, sneak in, quietly get girls out. Gunshots. The father said for 5 hours he could hear gunshots. So it was a long process. How did that happen?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If you put in the wrong man in the right place, that's the result you get. Some of us are very frank to the letter. We tell you the truth of what is going on. The guy who's this national security advisor is an artillery officer. He's not a security man per se. Most of us who went through the military went through sandwich courses in intelligence and so on and so forth. But that is a vital position where you have to put an expert who could foresee things, who had a vision of what could happen in future. All these things have come to, the chicken has come home to roost now. And it looks as if the blame is on everybody. And up to now, these people are still stuck in there because of the benefits they will get, because of the financial rewards they are making. The whole country is in a mess because of this. Go through, I will challenge the Nigerian media to do investigative journalism about this. Those people who have taken part in this operation right from day one. Go and see how rich they are now. Go and see how much money they have now after being relieved of their appointment. They don't need to wait. The Senate ought not to put in a resolution at times that in 1 week give them a deadline. That
demand for their resignation.
Demand for their resignation.
Demand for
because
we're talking about something that is over 2 weeks. We're giving them 1 more week.
1 more week. Doing what?
How many of the girls are still alive?
You're going to give them enough room to clear all the table, clear the remnants of what they want to do there.
Okay, still on that note, Princess, looking at the girls, even when they come back and the girls that still remain, already the girl-child education in that part of the country is pretty low. The percentage of girls in school, very, very low. How would this affect that?
That definitely is another, just like the Kenya problem, a setback. It's going to be a huge setback to whatever successes have, gotten a few people to say, okay, let my child have an education. Because people are still being educated to allow their daughters to have education. We still have very few girls that are still going to school. And with this issue of Boko Haram being against Western education and just jumping and picking girls, this is the second time so far that we're knowing they're coming to pick a large number. 25 girls, we're talking about 230. What happened to the other 25 girls? Nobody's adding them to the number. They are still missing. And so it's going to be scary for any parent. Ask me as a mother. I'm not going to let anybody take my daughter to any school. If she has to go to school, maybe homeschool.
So let the teacher come.
Let the teacher come to the house and come and educate the girl. But for her to leave, so at least you know that if anybody came to pick your child, it's right within where you are. Not that you trusted your child in an environment where you expect your child to be safe. And the child is not safe. And I even think they should go around that area right now. There ought to be a state of emergency in all schools. They really need to just stop school for now. It's seriously. Because children are not safe anymore. Boys are not safe, they are killed. Girls are carried away.
So it's a serious matter.
So it's a serious
But some are saying that girls are not a number of them are not even in the country. That some of them have been shipped off to, or taken away to neighboring countries and sold for as low as 2,000 naira. What do you make out of that? Because already child marriage is a problem. So, even if they're being sold for 2,000, that's child marriage. But then child marriage is already a problem in that area. So how do you...
It's a problem in the area. We have a Nigeria that is still a problem. A problem in the sense that we enact a law at the federal level as Child Rights Act 2003 and expect every other state to enact their own law, adapting the national law. But within the same northern area, a senator marries a 14-year-old girl. And at the end of the day, the question is, she's not a Nigerian child. That's true. Because she's not a Nigerian child, she's an Egyptian. But she was a child within the corridors of Nigeria that has a law that says anybody should marry anyone below 18. Now, so it's still a big issue that they've tried to make a religious issue. In other words, to create the more commotion and problem. And some of the states in the north also have their child rights law for those who have enacted. And the age something is still a problem. They are not putting 18. So it's, for us on the south, it seems to be a problem. But for those who are in the north, it is not really a problem. Though they've not made it a problem. It's not an issue. So marrying girls at that age is not a challenge. What we're saying is, as a country, we have a law, so let's hold on to that law. But it is not, we're in a country where we have some Sharia states, we have the penal code, so there's a lot of issue on the child marriage thing. So marrying them off for 2,000 naira or $15 or whatever is not a problem. But my fear, Bashorun said something about using them as human shields. But when they picked these girls, if there was a rescue almost immediately, they probably won't be human shields. What exactly is the intention of picking these girls? And for me, I still believe I'm not a security person. But my own intuition, my own attendance raising is these people want to raise their own army. And the girls are at the ripe age that they marry them. I think some of them are even older. So if they say they're moving them out of the country, it is still into their camps to marry themselves. It's not that they're selling them off to anybody. It is still the camps. I mean, they're terrorists. They have camps around all those places.
Okay.
And so but it's so sad that we as a nation, security has been a big issue. It's not today.
Yes. At this point, let's take another break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about Chibok girls. Welcome back. We're still talking about the fate of the 234 abducted girls and attempts to rescue them. Now, Major, before we even go on to talk about attempts to rescue them, let's talk about the kids that are remaining in school. How do we protect them?
Well, it's left for those who are in the operational wing of the armed forces now.
What would you suggest?
Well, most of them, if that area is prone to security, they should be moved out of that area completely, because any gunfight can occur anytime. We want to make sure the children are out of range, that they are not in harm's way. That's what because the whole area now, being under emergency rule, all these things are not supposed to happen. All these things are not supposed to happen. And that beats me. Why this would be happening? This is not the Nigerian army or the Nigerian armed forces that we knew. Things have gone berserk. Things have gone worse now. For even the enemy to walk in straight, you could remember, we can take the case of these guys as a very good example, but another one that will beat you is a barrack, a military barrack, inside the war zone there, that these terrorists, these soldiers walked in leisurely to go there and gun them down. And what are they doing? That is a war zone, for instance, for God's sake. And you allow that to happen, and heads don't roll, and nothing is happening? I hope this thing doesn't degenerate, because all the Nigerian borders are so porous that these people are working in and out. All those things are supposed to be have been taken care of. By the time these things started to happen, you have to devise a means where you have to block their exit so that they will not come tomorrow and fight again. If they run away and fight, it will be worse. You have to devise a means to corner them. All these things will be in the operational table.
Okay, at this point, Moses, comment. Let us know what's happening online.
Yes, bosses are just coming in. Now, we have one from Somachi, and Somachi says, our federal government's silence in this hashtag Bring Back Our Girls conversation is uncomfortably loud. Now, you know, the tweets and comments have been coming so far seem to lash out on the federal government. You know, they think that the federal government is being laid back and not, you know, communicating effectively, you know, and not showing some level of empathy, you know, on this matter. And one went ahead to say from Omojesu, and Omojesu was actually throwing a question directly to Jonathan, and he says, dear Mr. President, good luck, Jonathan. If your daughter was abducted, would you ignore the over 200 girls? So now BC says, happy to see the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls campaign on Twitter. This is long overdue. Those children must be accounted for. And MS Fola Lawal says, the Sambisa Forest Patrol Guards know where to look for these girls. It's their forest. Someone is definitely not talking. Hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Now, this brings me to I find that tweet very, very interesting, because from what Major Bashorun earlier on said, you know, he seems to suggest some level of incapability, you know, on the security forces or their strategy. And here someone is saying that it's like a deliberate attempt, you know, of this laid back attitude. Now, the two key words that I can deduce from there is incapable and unwilling. Now, Major Bashorun, how would you react to that? Because it seems like people are accusing the security forces that they're either incapable of doing this, or some political minions, so to speak, are just not willing to solve this problem. How would you react to that?
You can divorce one from the other. The other is convoluted now. It's not that we don't have a capable military. If they're given the right atmosphere to operate, I'm sure, well-trained and with all the things they need, if they're giving all what they needed, there won't be a problem. But that is the question.
Do they have it?
Do they have what it takes to actually fight and win this war? That is the question.
Do they have what
it's not a matter of not being capable. If they are well-trained, I've been personally, and many others have been on overseas tours. We've gone to other countries to operate. And we can measure our standard against theirs and see that we are more superior.
So in your opinion, it's not about the military being incapable?
It's not being incapable, but because of other forces, other pressures coming in, political pressures, let's be frank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those reasons.
This just reminded me of something similar happening in Uganda in 1996, where, you know, about 139 girls were kidnapped. But the good news was 109 came back almost immediately, thanks to the help of one of the nuns there. Now, with that kind of good news, unfortunately, of course, a few others didn't make it back, but 109 came back. Now, that would give the parents something, hope. But the parents here don't seem to have that, so there seems to be a lack of confidence.
There is. It's quite sad. I mean, imagine I'm one of them, and there's no feedback. Let's put it that way. There's no feedback. They're not, okay, girls have been taken. Okay, so what have been done? So, you know, it's not as if we need to know military strategy per se. We don't, as civilians. It's not really our own. It's just bring back the girls. That's what we want. We don't need to know how they want to go about it. But it's quite sad that there's no real feedback. And then that error, that national error of the defense, Mr. Comment to say they had found the girls from wherever the source came up, spoken openly, tells that there's quite something funny, something not too okay at high level, which is why the parents are gearing and making their own way. You had 40 bicycles, motorcycles went out based on the parents'
to go set.
Effort. And men, there's actually still a lot of effort going on by civilians.
I'll have
to
to
go
cut you in there
Thank
because
you.
we do not have enough time to go on. Moses, I know you wanted to read more tweets, but we cannot do that. But thanks. I'm sure we're going to get back for that. Thank you.
Yeah, but they could also follow the conversation online. So it's never too late, really.
Yes, certainly. It doesn't end here. Thank you, Princess. Thank you. Thank you, Major, for being a part of the show.
But if I were to advise the president,
okay, please do.
I would suggest that he should leave Abuja, arrange those women somewhere, and talk to them one-on-one. Is what he is supposed to have done.
So you mean
now.
He should go
go and visit with those parents of those
families, yeah.
At least that will give them some confidence, some rest of mind that things are actually being done.
All right, and that is how far we can go today in the studio. But like Moses mentioned, go back online and continue to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.